速乎成无声 will the Sangha with great virtue out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings. Please turn the wonderful Dharma will to teach us how to live suffering and attend bliss and hand birth and death and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchedoye olahudi samyao samputoshi.
Namo sadanto suchedoye alahadi samyao samputoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. All right, Cliff, I appreciate the Dharma request. My name is Heng Shi. Today is Sunday, November 30th here in the Gold Coast of Queensland. It is Saturday night, the 29th of November, back in California. Glad you're all here. Really looking forward to being able to share some incredible stories from the Flower Garland Sutra with all of you. So let's begin with our invocation, spiritual presence. We invite the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to come. Here we go. Namo Tassa Bhagavato And we would like to respectfully acknowledge the Kombumerri people of the Ugambi language region here in the Gold Coast of Queensland as traditional storytellers and custodians of the land where our monastery is located. We pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. 那就是说，我们恭敬地承认Ugambi语族的孔布马里人是我们这里黄金海岸金安法界道场，我们这个寺院所在地的传统叙事者和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从来没放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。Yes, indeed. Right. Now, one of these days, I keep promising that I'm going to learn the Chinese bell song, the traditional way to do it, and I haven't done that yet. And I'm getting my courage up to do that. But the English is okay, I think. It has its own quality. But the Chinese has been sung before Sutra lectures for thousands of years. And just that in itself makes it worth listening to. But to have an American monk try to make it sound right, we'll try. We'll see. One of these days. Here we go. The bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000界内，佛法扬万亿国中，共训其法界和平，利益报他诺厚德。Okay, there we go. My gratitude to volunteers who make it their work to put this lecture out online, and the volunteers who kindly translate the words that I speak into both Chinese and Vietnamese. We've talked a lot about getting a Spanish translation. That might be the next step. So very much appreciate it. The opportunity just to open these texts and look into the mirror of a sutra that's been around for basically timeless time. To say it's been around since the Buddha's time, yes, but the sutra predates the Buddha. For us to be able to open it up and talk about it in English, that's exciting for me. So I'm so happy there are people who agree and who want to join me in this. And I'm working to remove myself as much as possible from that process, just to be a faithful mirror or a faithful lens. Think of a camera lens through which the light of the sutra shines out and everybody gets some of that radiance. That would be ideal to my mind. Okay, thanks again. Here we go. Let's see here. Who is with us today? We've got friends from Gold Coast here in Queensland, from Fremont, California, from Shanghai, from Alameda, from Saratoga, from Heilongjiang, from Montreal, from Sacramento, from Oregon, from Union City, from Calgary, here in the Gold Coast. Where else? Beijing, Shanghai, Harbin, Beijing. 这个是什么地方？ Let's see here. 云南 Oh my goodness. 从云南来的收听，欢迎欢迎。山东吉林、唐山、大连、悉尼西安黑龙江宝溪还有Let's see 兰溪、浙江安徽宿州，还有哪里？什么地方？鸡西西安。就说什么地方？泉州福建泉州，河北，欢迎有小朋友在，好的，欢迎欢迎还有淮南市还有Let's see here， 吉林、张家口、包头、北京、深圳、云南、昆明云南有2位，哈尔滨。辽宁、黑龙江、苏州，还有山东。哇，东北人最多，没有错。Okay. So, today we get a big chance to tell stories because Sudana, our hero, is going to a teacher who, from the teacher's body, are coming all of these different categories of beings, one by one by one. And the watching what these beings do as they emerge, we get a clear view of how the Avatamsaka Sutra interprets folklore and legends and myths, mythology, not in the sense of false stories, but the oldest stories, stories from the dawn of humanity. So these beings that emerge from Hai Chuang Bicho's body are all of those different things. So we get to interpret them and introduce them to you all. Here we are. Now, we introduced the Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas last time. We'll go down to here. Here we go. 从其背上为应一二乘而得度者，出无数百千亿声闻独觉。未着我者，说无有我；未着常者，为执常者，说一切行，一切横皆系无常。OK， 明白。未谈行者，说不净观；未谈行者，未贪行者，One more time， 再来。这个未贪行者说不净观，未嗔行者说慈心观，未痴行者说缘起观，未等分行者说与智慧相应境界法，未要着境界者说无所有法，为要着极尽处者，说发大誓愿，普饶一切众生法，如是所作，周遍法界。Got it. Clunky. Countless hundreds of thousands of millions of Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas came from his back, for the sake of those who could be taken across by the two vehicles. For those who were attached to the view of a self, they taught that there is no self. For those who were attached to permanence, they explained that all behavior is transient. For greedy beings, they spoke the contemplation of impurity. For angry ones, they spoke of the contemplation of compassion. For the deluded, they spoke the contemplation of conditioned arising. For those who suffered an equal share of all the poisons, they spoke the Dharma of the states that respond with wisdom. For those who were fond of attaching to states, they spoke the Dharma of there being nothing at all. For those who were fond of attaching to locations of still quietude, they spoke the Dharma of making great vows to universally benefit all beings. Thus their deeds filled the Dharma realm. Okay. So last week we talked about the 10 Dharma realms and the various, let's see, 10 Dharma, I'm going to type this in, 10 Dharma realms to not go beyond, 10 Dharma realms verses, here it is right there, 10 Dharma realms verses. See if we can bring them up here. There we are. So the 10 Dharma realms, that is to say 10 different places where beings can incarnate. As we mentioned last week, the top 4 are not reincarnations except the Shravakas. They are cultivated to there. You're no longer, once you're a sage, once you reach that nirvana, you're no longer reborn. The bottom 6, however, are what are called the 6-spoked wheel of reincarnation. 3 wholesome paths, 3 unwholesome, negative paths of suffering. So Here is Shifu's creation. I'm going to go through them because we want to hear them. I remember that night he came down from his apartment at Gold Mountain Monastery, and he was very happy. Not that Shifu was ever not happy, but this time he had a sparkle, and he said, I did it. He said, I got all 10 Dharma realms in verses that even you Americans can understand, he said. 十法界不离念心. So all the 10 places of reincarnation fit entirely within a single thought of the mind. 若人欲了知三世一切佛，因观法界性，如来为心造. One who wants to understand all Buddhas of past, present, and future times should observe the nature of the Dharma realm, how Tathagatas are made only from the mind. This would be the familiar 4 lines from the Avatamsaka Sutra, except Rulai. That's different. Right? 因观法界性，一切为心造. Shifu, introducing Buddhas, says Rulai 为心造. Tathagatas are made from the mind. The realm of Buddhas, 不大不小，非去非来，唯称世界，交影莲台. Buddhas are not big or small. They neither come nor go. In worlds many as specks of dust, they shine like mirrors on their lotus thrones. This Jiaoying is shine back and forth. So Buddhas, Shifu is using the pun here, Buddha, not big. They're not big, and they're also 不小, they're not small. They neither come, they don't go. 微尘世界, in worlds as many as motes of dust, meaning lots of worlds, 交影莲台, the Buddhas shine their lights back and forth mutually on each other. That's the first, that's the 10th Dharma realm, the highest one, the Buddhas. Bodhisattvas, 有情觉悟，跳出尘埃，六度万行，时刻陪在. Living beings, once awake, leap beyond the world of dust. The 6 perfections and myriad practices they nurture at all times. Okay, these are bodhisattvas. Shifu picked these Liu Du Wanheng, that aspect of bodhisattvas, as being the essence. That's these verses are so wonderful because they completely, if you remember only these about the 10 Dharma realms, the different categories of beings, you got the essence of it. So, 6 perfections, Liu Du, Liu Bolomi, and the myriad practices, Wanheng. That's the bodhisattvas. Okay, this is ours. Look, countless hundreds of thousands of millions of Shravakas and Prachika Buddhas. Yuanjue. The sutra says Dujue, solitary enlightened. Dujue, Yuanjue, 2 different names for Prachika Buddhas. Both work. Conditioned, they conditioned one, hold on a second. When we early translated Yuanjue, we said conditioned enlightened ones, which is not wrong, but it's more helpful if you say those who wake up by contemplating conditioned arising, praticca samuppada, 12缘起. So those enlightened by conditions is the right way to translate. Prachika Buddhas. The other name for these, they have 2 names. So Yuanjue, also called Dujie, they go out into nature, typically, and maybe in the high mountains or maybe in a deep jungle or here and there. Maybe they immerse themselves in the hinterland of southeast Queensland. Who knows? The Blue Mountains in New South Wales. And they wake up by contemplating. Sages, 圆觉圣贤，孤独睡眠，春花秋谢，12联欢. Beautiful verses. Sages mindful of causation live alone on mountain peaks. They see springs, blooms, decay, and fall. They know the 12 dependent links. There it is. Shifu gives us the essence of these beings. Sound hearers, that is these, Shravakas. Shravaka is Sanskrit, means those who, there are different translations. Either they hear the Buddha's voice and awaken to the way, 闻佛声而入道, or it might be they listen to instructions, they comprehend what the Buddha taught, and they wake up. So Shravaka, voice, sound, hearers. What is it? 声闻众生不论男女四谛观行饮食事圈. The noble Sangha of voice hearers, both women and men alike, observe and practice the Four Truths. Disguised, they teach to suit the time. Now, what's this about? So the idea being that from the Mahayana's point of view, this is a very charitable interpretation. Typically, in, you could say, traditional views, the Mahayana looks down on the Theravada, and the Theravada looks down on the Mahayana. So the Mahayana says, oh, these selfish arhats, they just want to get enlightened and leave. They don't want to teach anyone else. Selfish, right? So the Theravada looks at Mahayana and says, they're like bankers. They handle money. They eat 4 or 5 meals a day. How is that cultivated? So mutual criticism. This view says, no, it's not that they choose to be selfish and reach nirvana and leave without thinking of others. They are merely doing it provisionally. Yin shi, they are hiding their true identity and showing a provisional identity to inspire others to wake up. And the bottom, our last verse said that. For those who are fond of attaching to locations of stillness, they spoke the Dharma of making great vows to universally benefit all beings. 为要执着寂静处者，就是罗汉啊，治疗罗汉，说发大誓愿，普绕一切众生法，那就是饮食事圈 right? That's the disguised they teach to suit the time and the situation. Okay? People want to see the other ones? Let's do it since they're so brief and they're unforgettable. They're really good. Gods, devas. 六欲翻天五界十善众有漏根轮回难断. 6 desire heavens and the Brahma realm come from 5 precepts and 10 good deeds. There, gods plant seeds, but still outflow. So, samsara's rounds do not cease. Yep. That's, this is Shifu teaching devas, saying the Mahayana critique of being born in the heavens. And you think, most of the religions of the world, if you get to the heavens, you've made it. You are safe. Islam is that way. Christianity is that way. Judaism, not so much. But Hinduism talks about that. Even early Buddhism, if you have the Jataka tales, 佛的本生故事, they always say that so-and-so, the king Brahmadatta, went off to the Brahma heaven to receive the results of his good deeds. So that's like, Shifu was saying, you can do that, but not recommended because you will still outflow and you will fall. You'll leave the heavens. Okay, Ashura, we talked about them 2 weeks ago. 修罗性报有福无权，好用斗狠，浮沉业谦. Asuras have violent natures, possessed of blessings, but powerless. Daring and fierce, they love to fight. Their karma drags them up and down. This is so good. These verses just catch it, right? Each one of the Dharma realms, Shifu has got the right on, and there's a lesson for everyone. So Asuras, they definitely fight. Fight in the heavens, they fight on earth, they fight in the realm of animals and ghosts everywhere. Humans, what about us? 忍道和合，功罪相间，得胜孽降，其有他焉? Harmony is the path of humans. Our merits and offenses mix together. On good deeds we rise, evil makes us fall. There's no one else to blame at all. Oh boy. Harmony, 和合. Isn't that funny how harmony seems to be the last thing that people do. This is the Dharma of yin and guo, cause and effect. Okay, continuing, got three more. San e dao. Okay, Dharma realm of animals. 畜生好谈，多而无厌，将黑作白，是非莫辨. Animals feed greedily, never knowing when to stop, without concern for black or white. They don't distinguish wrong from right. So, there are beautiful little birds out here who absolutely fit that description. Oh my goodness. These guys, these are the ones. They do not distinguish right from wrong. They only want all the food. All the food is mine. Here they are. These are lorikeets. They fear no one and nobody. They dive right at the turkeys that are 30, 40 times larger than they are. They go right for the turkey's eyes, and the turkeys go, okay, okay, you can have it. Yep, that's the animals realm. Ghosts, 恶鬼法界，鬼类喜嗔，魅果迷因，无明颠倒，日积月深. The realm of ghosts thrives on anger, confusion causes, blind results. Their ignorance and delusions grow deeper every day. So, realm of ghosts, Shifu gives them the Dharma doctor's analysis of what's wrong that sends us to the realm of ghosts, right? Anger. Animals are greed. Ghosts are anger. Ignorance and delusion grow deeper. It's hard to come back into a body from the realm of ghosts. Finally, the bottom. 地狱有苦，无门自钻，起祸造业，受报循环. The hells are filled with misery and pain. There are no doors, yet one drills on in. Deluded, one creates karma, and results follow in accord. The nature of the hell's realms. 十界一心，不立当念，能觉此念，立登彼岸. 10 Dharma realms in a single thought. We find them only here and now. Awaken to this very thought. Just then we reach the other shore. Okay, there. Aren't those lovely? Yeah, thanks for letting me do that now. We are looking at these two, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, known as two vehicles, Sheng. And when I mentioned that this is a source of conflict in Buddhism, in the larger body of Buddhism, indeed it is. Even a few years after the Buddha entered Nirvana, there were already 17 different sects, 17 schisms in the Sangha in India. And the people broke up over what? They broke up over things like what material to make their alms bowls, what color, what quality should the cloth for their robes be made of, what was the right way to receive alms. Just the mundane details. People being people, they were Buddhist monks, but they still found reason to fight. So in the Buddha's 49 years of teaching, there are numerous accounts of his just getting so fed up with the fighting of the Sangha that he would just leave. He would say, "You all work it out. I'm out of here." And he would go out into the forest and the elephants would make offerings. And so um, those are the two vehicles. Now, what about us, the Mahayana? Well, we have traditionally perpetuated that view. And um, when I go out into the wider Mahayana Buddhist world, I frequently remind my colleagues to remove from their vocabulary 小乘. We were in Wuxi at the fourth 世界佛教论坛, the World Buddhist Forum in Wuxi, and I had an opportunity to talk about changes in the Mahayana that I wanted to see into the 21st century. And because the hosts, the Chinese, had invited monks and nuns from all over the world, there were lots and lots of Theravada cultivators there, old Bantes from Sri Lanka and from Burma and from Myanmar and from everywhere. So I gave this talk and I said, Master Shren Hua, whenever we ordain, whenever we do an ordination, we have Mahayana and Theravada together on the platform. And we never use the word small vehicle, 小乘. Instead, we say Southern tradition and Northern tradition. And Shifu invited Ajahn Sumedho to be the Dejie Heshang for ordinations at City of 10,000 Buddhas. And when I was finished telling this story, this elderly Sri Lankan Bhante came up to me and he said, "Good talk." Good talk. So they don't get to hear that very often. And it's not only the case that in Mahayana countries, people look down on Theravada monks as being selfish, et cetera, et cetera. The Theravada monks, and wherever the Theravada goes, there is also a stereotype about Mahayana. And the criticism is often correct. All right, there you go. So now what I want people to look at here, see each of these, we've already looked at what? We have looked at Asuras, we have looked at dragons, dragon maidens, we have looked at immortals, we have looked at Kshatriyas, Brahmins, lay people, and elders. All these different qualities of beings, communities of beings. And the fascinating thing about this, and I'm pleased that I saw this. The thing about Tianlong Babu, the gods, the dragons, and Eightfold Pantheon, the thing about these different communities of beings is that they met the Buddha, and before they met the Buddha, they were big bosses, often fearsome, scary. The yakshas and rakshasas they're flesh eaters, ghosts. Asuras did nothing but fight. Then they met the Buddha one by one, and they followed the Dharma and transformed. And so in the description of what each community of beings does in the sutra gives us this new reformed version of these communities of beings. So how they behave after they meet the Buddha, that's what we're being presented. So, okay, check this out. Here's what I want people to see here. The Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, and by the way, Shravakas are a practice. Arhats are the results of the practice. Shravaka means they cultivate by means of hearing the Buddha's teachings And they need the Buddha's teachings to wake up. They don't awaken themselves. Pratyeka Buddhas are able to awaken by themselves out in the mountains and the forests. So people ask, what's the difference? Oh, Shengwan, what is a Shengwan, a Shravaka, a voice hearer, compared to an Arhat? Well, Arhats are first, second, third, and fourth fruition Arhats. So as they say, every Arhat has been a voice hearer. Not all voice hearers, Shravakas, are Arhats yet, but they can cultivate to that result. Shravaka is the practice or the Tao, the way. Arhat is the result. That's the successful cultivation. Pratyeka Buddhas, oh, and by the way, as we go through the various qualities that define each of these categories, Shravakas, by and large, they say, cultivate according to the Si Di Fa, Si Sheng Di, the Four Noble Truths. That's a hallmark of the sound hearer, voice hearer, is they contemplate suffering or dissatisfaction or unsatisfactoriness where it arises, then the path, then that suffering can end. That's the third one. And then the path to the end of that suffering. Those are the Four Noble Truths. So Shravakas cultivate those and wake up. The hallmark Pratyeka Buddhas, if we're going to say what is the unique quality of each of these communities, Pratyeka Buddhas, also known as solitary awakened beings, cultivate the 12 links of conditioned arising. They see the 12 links is the creation story of Buddhism. And my beloved mentor, Dr. Nakasone, from his study of the Avatamsaka, he said, among all religious creation stories, no matter what religion we're talking about, no matter what sacred text we're looking at, be it the Vedas, be it the Bible, be it the Quran, whatever, he said, only Buddhism begins its creation story by watching how we go from ignorance all the way to birth, old age, sickness, death, yo bei ku now, suffering and grief. And then how ending ignorance can lead to the end of old age, sickness, and death, suffering and grief. He says only the Buddha's wisdom and his insight saw the gradual progression through the 12 links of conditioned arising, conditioned co-production, this deep insight into the nature of all phenomena. He says that's the major contribution of Buddhism to world religion, he said, which I find fascinating. Think about that. That's what Pratyeka Buddhas cultivate. Now, what do they do after they wake up? They start teaching Dharma. Look here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 things that they teach. And how do they do it? Okay, if living beings are attached to the view of self, what do they teach? 无我, no self. Okay, right? If you're attached to things never ending, permanence, a view of permanence, they talk about transience, impermanence. If they meet living beings who are particularly greedy, and we just learned that animals are that, they talk about a contemplation. Guan, what? 不净, 不净, one. If they meet beings who are angry, like ghosts, they talk about contemplating 慈悲, compassion, using the mind to look into impurity to cure our attachment to greed, look into compassionate thoughts to cure our habit of anger, when they meet deluded living beings, beings in the hells, they talk about conditioned arising, how everything arises dependent on something else. No dharmas have an intrinsic, inherent identity. Everything comes from conditions coming together. So, 无我, 无常, 无尽. These are called the three seals of Dharma. And you will find Theravada monks who will say what I just said, quoting Dr. Nakasone, and they'll say this about the Buddha. They say, the number one most unique teaching of the Buddha is the three seals of Dharma, Sanfa Yin, Anicca, Dukkha, and impermanence. What is impermanence in Sanskrit? So, no self. The Buddha, the prince, contemplated in his meditation, exploded the self, deconstructed the self. He looked at the nature of all things and saw how they come into being, abide, decay, and go void and then return. And he saw that things are impure, not like dirty. It's not like ivory snow, 99 and 44 100% pure. It's not that. It's that things are not fixed in an identity that is permanently and uniquely itself. Things are made of other things. And there's also perception of those things that gets in the way of the identity of things. So the six senses depend upon the objects, and the objects depend upon the six senses to come into our understanding of reality. That's impurity. 不净, 不净观. There is no precision in nature. Things are made up of other things. So what comes from this kind of contemplation? Wisdom. Wisdom. And all of these, what are they? This is Shrabakas and Pratyeka Buddhas now having accomplished their encounter with the Buddha. They're here teaching Dharma. And they are bringing these beings, every being that they meet, they're bringing them forward in their cultivation, in their progress to awakening. So notice how this works. So they teach no self. They explain transience, impermanence. Here we have three contemplations: impurity, compassion, and conditioned arising, for greed, anger, and delusion, the three poisons. Okay? Then there's a fourth one. If you have an equal share of all the poisons, they say, there are all these states that with wisdom you can set them down. 可以看破放下. So this is step by step by step. What we're getting in the sutra is a description of how these beings teach Dharma, which I think is so cool. That we get a picture of now this is Bhikshu Haichuang's samadhi bubble coming out of different parts of his body. Where is this coming from? His back. The Shrabakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, come out of his back. And they're not done. Look, if we are fond of attaching to states, they talk about emptiness. There's nothing at all, nothing to attach to. And by hearing this, if the conditions are ripe, then those beings can progress. They can wake up. So each of these groups are being given a Dharma to get them unstuck, to unstick them from wherever they were. Not done yet. For those who were fond of attaching to locations of stillness, they spoke the Dharma of making great vows to universally benefit all beings, right? So who is that? Those are their two vehicle colleagues. Now the we're you know, a weather system is moving in, so it got dark here. So let me find my notes here. These arhats, Shravakas, and prachekas, those awakened by conditions, speak Dharma expediently to teach beings who can cultivate and overcome. So if you met one of the Shravakas or Pracheka Buddhas on the BART train, or maybe you were waiting in a waiting room at the airport, or standing in line at DMV, or sitting in a chair waiting to be your turn. And one of these beings just was right there. And they took one look at you and knew exactly where you were stuck. They might speak Dharma for you and say, oh, here, contemplate this. And when you do, go, oh, I never saw things that way. That's really interesting. You've just opened the door to deeper understanding. What are these contemplations? Let's see here. Make these bigger. Okay. So contemplations, where was it in our text? Take a look here. Right here. Contemplation of impurity, 不净观. Contemplation of compassion, 慈观. Contemplation of conditioned arising, right here. 不净观, 慈心观, 缘起观, there they are. These are like antidotes, right? Think of a doctor. 以毒攻毒, they say. If you have a certain kind of poison, they can feed you another poison to get rid of it. Here in Australia, their snake bite is a fairly common thing. And they have, there is a laboratory in New South Wales that milks venomous snakes. The gentleman who does it is on social media, and he takes these huge venomous snakes, brown snakes, and death adders, and tiger snakes, and king browns, and he takes a little cup with a cellophane lid, and he grabs the snake and he pushes the snake's fangs into the cup, and boom, like that. And out comes, from the fangs, comes a little bit, a teaspoon of snake venom. And they take that and they separate it and dry it and process it and send it all over Australia to save the lives of people who unfortunately get bitten by snakes. So this is 以毒攻毒. You use poison to counteract poison. Contemplations work that way. So they are counteractants, they counteract. They are remedies, 对治法, right? Antidotes. So if you're attached to the self, they say 无我, they explain 无我. If you're attached to permanence, they explain 无常. If you're greedy, they say, ah. Of course, greed includes desire, and the idea is people desire beauty, and they mistake the external for something that in fact is very organic and very just underneath the skin. There is fat and blood and gristle and bone, things that are not beautiful at all, but we get attached to the outside. So they explain the contemplation of impurity. If we are angry, they say, ah, they talk about compassion and use expedient words to counteract the angry thoughts in the mind. And if they have somebody who is really confused, they say, you know, everything arises because of conditions. You want to cut through and see clearly. And if you have one of all three, greed, anger, and delusion, they speak the Dharma of states that respond with wisdom. Okay, there it is. So I really like this because it's you get to see what Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas do when they teach. They have met the Buddha and they are happy to help us wake up. Okay. What's next? Let's see here. Oh, I can hear thunder outside. Okay. You've all been listening to my voice for a long time. We're going to do something based on vows, Buddha's vows. We haven't done this for a while. Take a look here. Buddhas in the past used the power of their names and made vows saying that whoever recites their name will get the benefits of their cultivation. So if you recite the name Do Bao Rulai, Tathagata, it's Rulai. Each of these is, see, Namo and then Rulai. That's Namo, I take refuge with Tathagata Do Bao, many treasures, abundant wealth. I take refuge with Tathagata Bao Sheng, jewel, victory, priceless success. Namo Rulai, I take refuge with Miao Si Shen, wonderfully formed body, beautiful body, Tathagata or Buddha. Okay, Namo Rulai, what? Guang Bo Shen, extensive, vast body. Buddha with an extensive body. Namo Rulai, what is it? Li Bu Wei, Buddha beyond all fears, fearless Buddha. Namo Rulai Hu Ganlu Wang, the Buddha ambrosia, sweet dew Buddha, king of sweet dew. Finally, our old friend, Namo Rulai Amito, the Buddha Amitabha. Okay. So number one, Doba Rulai, success in business, gets rid of poverty. So if you have friends who are going into business, getting a second job, recite the name of Doba Rulai. They will succeed. Who's next? Bao Sheng Rulai. His vows say, whoever recites my name will forever leave the paths of the hells, the ghosts and the animals. That's how it happens. You get those connections. So when I'm here with the birds and animals, I am busy reciting the seven Tathagatas' names because I want them to hear these names and put the vows of the Buddhas to work. Miao Zishan, wonderfully formed and colorful body, beautiful body. You can leave the realm of ghosts. This is specially aimed at beings in the realm, the Dharma realm of ghosts. Okay. Furthermore, if nobody around you is stuck in the ghost realm, you recite it on behalf of your family. Your children become very pretty, very handsome, and life after life, they are good looking. Miao Sishan, as part of the Buddha's vows. Guangbo Shan, what's this one? Hungry ghosts get relief. Humans get a big, healthy body. This is particularly hungry ghosts who suffer this awful affliction of never being able to get full. Their stomachs are so empty, but their throats are very narrow, so they can never get enough food down their throats to satisfy their hunger. and they see food and they put it into their mouth and it turns to coals. That's their karma. So we recite Namo Guangbo Shen Rulai, and that affliction is paid off. That's the Buddha's vows. Li Bu Wei, beyond fear. Birds and fish lose fear of humans and they leave the animals' realm. I recite this a lot. And you can see bit by bit the crows. We have a family of crows. They're coming around to get to know me. The pigeons, they used to be, they would disappear as soon as I showed up, but now they're willing to stay and eat a little bit of birdseed. So that's I hope that is the case, and I recite the name, the Buddha beyond fear. Gan Lu Wang, number 6. This is animals and fish hear the Dharma. When you recite Namo Gan Lu Wang Rulai, they get more from it than if you just speak English and they speak bird or animal or fish, right? And then this one, everybody's happy with this one. Your kids, if you recite the name of Ganlu Wang Rulai, your kids remember what the teacher said in class. They're able to bring it back on the exam. And of course, every Chinese parent is happy with that one. Namo Ganlu Wang Rulai. Then the last one, Namo Amito Rulai. Okay, rebirth in Amitabha's Pure Land. Here's the English. Namo Doba Rulai, purge of stinginess, 3 miserable rebirths, poverty, all gone. Shopkeepers recite this. The karma of theft that creates poverty. This is good for business people. Namo Baosheng Rulai. Animals get protecting spirits. You don't fall into the evil destinies. If you recite in the marketplace and butcher shops and mortuaries, beings there cross over quickly. Miao Shen Rulai, ghosts change from yin to yang energy. They leave the ghost path. Beautiful appearance. Children in the womb become pretty babies when they're born. Physical beauty, life after life. Guangbo Shen Rulai, hungry ghost throats expand. They can drink water. Ah, what relief. Gain rebirth in the heavens with a large body. Li Bui Rulai, fish and birds lose fear. Their hearts lose fear. They leave the animal path. Gan Lu Wang Rulai. Fish understand when you speak the Dharma for them. How compassionate is that? Thinking about beings in the realm of aquatic creatures. Recite for your child before they attend class. They remember the teacher's lessons. People who recite Namo Amito Rulai eradicate 80 million eons of life and death debts. Be reborn in the land of utmost happiness. Pretty good. I think this is a great deal. Namo Doba Rulai, Namo Bashan Rulai, Namo Myasa Shan Rulai, Namo Guangbo Shan Rulai, Namo Li Bui Rulai, Namo Gan Luang Rulai, Namo Amito Rulai. Namo Doba Rulai, Namo Bashan Rulai, Namo Myasa Shan Rulai, Namo Goang Shen Rulai, Namo Liu Rulai, Namo Gan Rulai, Namo Buddha Rulai. Want to do it again? Here we go. Namo Doba Rulai, Namo Baosheng Rulai, Namo Myasa Shen Rulai, Namo Gong Shen Rulai, Namo Li Bui Rulai, Namo Gandu Wang Rulai, Namo Amito Rulai. You have a pet at home, let them hear those sounds. Golly. Okay, next. Are we ready? 从其两间除五数百千亿诸夜叉、落茶王，种种形貌，种种四相，或长或短，皆可部位，无量眷属而自围绕， 守护一切行善众生，并诸贤圣菩萨众会，若向正住及正住者，或时现坐执金刚身，守护诸佛及佛住处，或便守护一切世间。有不为者，令得安稳；有疾病者，令得除差；有苦恼者，令得免离；有过恶者，令其厌悔；有灾横者，令其熄灭。如是利益一切众生，皆悉令其舍生死轮，转正法轮。Wonderful, man. Countless hundreds of thousands of millions of yakshas and rakshasa kings came from his two shoulders. Whether tall or short, all of their various shapes and features, forms and appearances were completely horrifying. They were surrounded by limitless followers who protected the beings who practiced good, as well as the assemblies of the worthy sages and bodhisattvas. They would appear as Vajra-wielding spirits in front of those who approached correct views, or those who were already established in correct views, and protect and guard the Buddhas and their dwelling. Sometimes they protected the world so that beings who were frightened grew peaceful and serene. They healed the sick. Suffering and afflicted beings got relief. Offenders grew sick of their crimes and repented. Those who suffered disasters and calamities got rid of their calamities. They benefited beings in these ways so they could leave the cycle of birth and death and turn the wheel of right Dharma. Yes. 夜叉罗刹，夜叉罗刹，罗刹王，夜叉王。Do you remember when we recite the Pumanpin, recite the Universal Door chapter, one of the situations that Guanyin Bodhisattva saves us from is if our ship or our conveyance goes to the lands of the Rakshasas. Rakshasas are said to be ghosts that devour human flesh and blood. Yakshas, before they meet the Buddha, are called Sujigui, fast-moving ghosts. They're messenger types, and they're often short, ugly, as they describe them historically, and they are terrifying. When humans see them, these are the ghosts that the world of video games have picked up yakshas and rakshasas to illustrate beings who are obviously they're very mean and scary. So you, as the hero of the video game, have to dispatch the yakshas and rakshasas. That is true until they meet the Buddha. And then after they meet the Buddha, everything changes. Okay. So look at what the sutra says about them. They, all their shapes and features, forms and appearances were completely horrifying. 皆可怖畏, right? Really scary. Oh my goodness. So what about them? They meet the Buddha. They decide that while being the boss of their own community is important and valuable, if they can get free of the rebirth of ghosts and ogres, then they can transform and they can be like the Buddha, free from all suffering whatsoever. Okay, let's see what it says. They were surrounded by lots of followers, the Wang, the Locha Wang, the kings of the Rakshasas, now practice good in their communities. And they appear, it says here, key to their identity, they protect good doers. If you're a wholesome person and you do good deeds, the yakshas and the rakshasas will come and protect you. That's using their skills and their kind of innate qualities to do good for the Dharma. That's the Avatamsaka, as I said, shows us the nature of each of these communities of beings, and then how after reform, they're no longer doing nasty deeds. They're no longer harming people. They're not after power or fame or wealth. Instead, they are benefiting living beings. So they protect. Do you remember our picture of the Vajra Sutra? That frontispiece from the printed book, the Vajra Prajnaparamita? There are yaksha Dharma protectors there beside the Buddha. They look really scary. They can appear in two different forms. They can appear as ogres, nasty. They can also appear as wholesome fairy type nature spirits. Now, the thing about yakshas is they predate Buddhism. They predate the Vedas, so the Hindu sutras. They have been around in Buddhist, they've been around in Indian mythology forever. Sounds like we have a hailstorm outside. Oh boy. If it gets loud here, I'll have to, I have a tin roof, and if hailstones are coming, it's going to get noisy. So they can appear as Vajra-wielding spirits in front of people who, here it comes. So notice it says, 若向正住即正住者, for beings who want to change and see things through the wisdom eyes of the Buddha, or those who have already done so, they come and protect and guard them. Okay? They appear as Vajra-wielding spirits, and nobody messes around. Sometimes they protect worlds so that frightened beings lose their fear and become peaceful and serene. They heal the sick. They bring relief to beings who suffer and are afflicted. If you're someone who, for whatever reason, has committed crimes, they help you wake up and 改过 and repent and change. So anybody who's experiencing disasters and calamities, these yakshas and rakshasas come and remove the calamities. In general, they benefited beings in these ways so they could leave the cycle of birth and death and turn the wheel of the right Dharma. So, isn't that cool? Let's take a look here. Who do we have? Among the beings who we encounter regularly are the four kings of heaven. Okay, here is an unconverted yaksha. Scary. Or either that or he is appearing in this form to scare us into behaving. But there is a statue of a scary looking yaksha king. They also look like this. This is an Indonesian version. You can see they have tusks, 4 tusks coming out of their mouths. Their hair stands up. Pretty scary. Here is another Indonesian version. This is Ravana. In Hindu scriptures, Vedas and the Ramayana, and the yakshas appear regularly. Notice this club and his fangs and his red eyes. Oh my goodness. Here is a Yaksha couple, the king of Yakshas, with a family cryptic with a child there. Now, when we get into the Mahayana, what do we discover? Medicine Buddha with Yaksha generals, 12夜叉将军, right? People remember in the Medicine Buddha Sutra, it talks about these 12 Yaksha generals who make vows to protect Medicine Buddha. 12神将, there they are. Ah, okay. Well, this kind of dials it in a little bit more, have a little better sense of who these beings could be. Medicine Buddha, here are the Yaksha generals. 6 here, 6 here. They have names, they're named in the Medicine Buddha Sutra. And they indeed are some of his major Dharma protectors. Now, here's what's so interesting is there is a figure from old ancient Indian mythology called Kubera. And he is said to be the god of wealth, Saishan. He has a mongoose, the animal, in his left hand that, of course, mongooses kill snakes. And so he is righteous. And he is a yaksha. And when he got to China, he became 多闻天, 多闻北部四大天王, right? This Yaksha king became one of the 4 world protecting kings, 四大天王, whose job is to subdue and teach all of the other yakshas. So he's the king of the yakshas. And people say this is Kubera gone to China. He is Duo Wen Tian. His name is Vaisravana. And he's the god, the wheel turning Chakravartin monarch from the north in Uttarakuru, and he subdues all the yakshas. He's got a mongoose in this hand and a money bag in this hand. Here is a Rakshasa, Yaksha. There's a Yaksha king with all of the heads. Here is Hanuman. These figures are from Hinduism, but it's the start of these beings. Here they are again. This is Ravana. And people know in the Ramayana the struggle between Rama and Ravana. So he is a Yaksha and a Rakshasa. Okay. There they are. Multiple hands, multiple heads. So when these beings get to here, let's see. Here we have, who is this? This is a Yaksha. His name is Hairy Grip. And in one of the Buddha's Jataka stories, we hear about Prince Five Weapons. People remember this story? It's a wonderful image, isn't it? Oh my God. So Prince Five Weapons is let's see, I'll help our translator out because we've actually got a great story. Prince Five Weapons. Here it is. Here we are. Once upon a time, Brahmadatta, the king of Benares, had a son. The child was born, and the king gathered 800 wise men, soothsayers, fortune tellers, to determine the son's future. These wise men predicted the boy would grow to be a great king, famous all over India for his skill with the sword, the spear, the bow, the battle axe, and the shield, 5 weapons. Because of this prophecy, the child's parents named him Prince 5 Weapons. When the prince turned 16, the king sent him away for an education to Kandahar, to Takshila, study with a famous teacher. This is the famous university town in India. The prince obeyed and studied well. When his studies were over, the prince's teacher gave him 5 weapons and sent him home to Benares. On the way home, he came to a thick, dark forest. He was about to enter the forest, and the local people said, "Do not go into that forest. There is a yaksha, an ogre named Hairy Grip, who is there, and he kills everyone he meets." Prince 5 Weapons said, "No problem. No worries, mate," he said. "That's my way home. I'll go right through the forest." In the middle of the forest, the yaksha came out. Now, this yaksha has not been crossed over. Hairy Grip, tall as a palm tree, a head the size of a temple, eyes like saucers, and 2 tusks. His face like a hawk, a mottled purple belly. The palms of his hands and the soles of his feet were a deep blue black. Now, the most important thing is that he's covered with hair that is sticky. Hairy Grip says, time for lunch, and I'm hungry." The prince was still not afraid. He grabbed his bow and out of his quiver drew a poison-tipped arrow and shot the yaksha with an arrow. Bingo! The arrow caught in the yaksha's long, sticky hair, and it stuck. The prince shot another arrow and another, 50 in all, but every single one stuck in the ogre's hair. And the ogre said, that tickles. I'm still hungry." The yaksha laughed as he pulled out the arrows and snapped them in 2 and threw them on the ground. The prince, undaunted, pulled out his sword, 33 inches long, but it too got stuck in the yaksha's fur around his neck. So the prince took his spear and, using the methods, the martial arts that he was taught at Takshila University, he used his spear technique and stuck the yaksha and the battle axe, and everything stuck. The yaksha was unharmed. The prince, however, was still defiant. He said, "I am the Prince 5 Weapons, but I trust not in my weapons, but in myself. I will pound you to dust." And he took his right fist and he gave a right cross, and his fist stuck. And the prince swung with his left hand, a left uppercut, and he kicked with his right foot and his left foot, and his head, he butted the yaksha. All 5 limbs now stuck in the sticky fur of the yaksha. The prince was tangled, caught in 5 places. Now, the yaksha, one way the story could end would be if he ate the prince right there. But the man's bravery impressed him. Nobody had ever fought back in the experience of Hairy Grip, the ogre, before. "Why aren't you afraid?" the yaksha asked. Prince 5 Weapons replied, "Why should I be afraid? I have a lightning bolt in my stomach. If you eat me, you won't be able to digest. It will tear you apart from the inside out. I may die, but so will you. That's why I'm not afraid." The yaksha was afraid. Wow, this guy is like a lion among men. I think I'll let him go. So he picked him out of his hair, said, "Young sir, you are a lion of a man. I will not eat you. I set you free from my hands, just the way the moon leaves Rahu after the eclipse. Go back to the company of your friends and relatives." Once free, so this is the Buddha in a future life. The prince told Hairy Grip that he had been born a murderous, bloodthirsty ogre because of the offenses of his former lives. If the yaksha continues this way, in life after life, he'll be born as a dark, horrible creature living a dark, horrible life. But it doesn't have to be that way. The prince spoke Dharma for the yaksha on the 5 kinds of wickedness and how they're punished, the 5 kinds of virtue and how they're rewarded. Hairy Grip on the spot, repented, converted to a life of goodness and cultivation. The prince left the forest, reminding the yaksha to keep to a virtuous life. He left the forest, and the prince said to the people, the yaksha will not kill them any longer. And he went on his way to Benares, inherited the kingdom from his father, ruled long and well, giving alms and doing other good works. Now, we know that in the Jataka tales, it concludes by saying the prince went on to be reborn in the Brahma heaven for his just rewards. And in the future, he says, the Buddha was Prince 5 Weapons. And Devadatta, the Buddha's cousin, was the ogre, Hairy Grip. How about that? There you go. Isn't that wonderful? Here he is, Hairy Grip. So that's a yaksha. And in the Jataka tale, here it is, the yaksha is crossed over by the Buddha's virtue. That's by Prince 5 Weapons virtue. Yeah. Are the yakshas the same as the Vajra knights? In some cases. There are, sometimes Vajra knights are bodhisattvas. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Why are they called Pratyeka Buddha? Are they considered real Buddhas? They're called Pratyeka Buddhas because 2 reasons. They're enlightened. They are Buddhas. Their enlightenment is not, they're in nirvana. Birth and death has ended for them. They are a different Dharma realm, but they are part of what are called the 4 sages. Travakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Buddhas are the 4 Si Sheng, they're called 4 sages. And they make up the 10 Dharma realms. So they're not reborn in that category. They are cultivated to that category. So even arhats are in a sort of nirvana. There's nirvana with remainder and nirvana without remainder. Okay, and Xian, I discovered a temple that was left unattended. I want to report it to the Buddhist Association. Somebody told me that a Buddhist practitioner should remain unattached. And if I cared about such matters, I would not be able to transcend the 3 realms. This left me confused. Does emptiness mean we should do nothing? If everything is empty, does that mean we have no responsibility to act? I recalled the Shurangama Sutra, speaking of the empty Tathagata store and the not empty Tathagata store, and the empty, not empty Tathagata store. I became even more uncertain about how to apply these teachings in real life. Please guide me. 我发现一处寺院无人看守，想上报佛教协会予以保护。但有人说学佛不着相，不要管它，不然出不了三界。Okay. I will let you use your wisdom. When we look at the Vajra Sutra, Jinggang Jing, we are able to look through the Buddha's eyes. And from the Buddha's eyes, he talks about Kong. That doesn't mean that is the state of living beings. That's the Buddha's state. We are still in the midst of our duality. Cause and effect is still absolutely true. All right? So think about that. To talk this confusion, Kong Bu Kong, is that your reality? Or is everything really still, does this still sound to you? Oh, I have to turn on my, here we go. Original sound from musicians. Does that still sound? I think so. All right. So don't be confused about that. We get to look through the Buddha's eyes in the Prajna Sutras. That doesn't mean it's our state. Okay, contemplate this. How did Chakra, Di Shitian, Shirti Huanyin, how did Chakra get to be Chakra? Chakra got to be the chief among gods by finding a temple that was abandoned, and there was a hole in the roof, and the rain was coming through and raining on the Buddha images. So he went out and got 32 other, who was a woman, got 32 other housewives to each contribute a little bit of money, and he organized a rebuilding, a renovation for the temple to keep the Buddhas inside from being rained on. As a result, he's born in the heavens. So I would highly encourage you to go report the unattended temple. You may discover that there's a story behind it. These temples often have complicated yin-yang. However, Master Empty Cloud, Xu Lao, right? What did he do? He constantly rebuilt monasteries that had flourished in the Ming Dynasty, 500 years earlier. And so this could be a wonderful thing. Do not hesitate to do good for fear that it is empty. Go ahead and do good. 尽量地做善，不要怕说哎呀一切空，所以何必 right? So this man saw Master Hua in Los Angeles, and Shifu was sitting on the couch, and the man came up and said, 如果诸法皆空，何必修呢? He said, since all dharmas are empty, why do I have to bother to cultivate? Shifu waited one beat, one pause, and he said, 如果一切空，诸法皆空，何必问呢? He said, if all things are empty, why do you bother to ask? Meaning, this guy was pretending to understand, to experience the emptiness of dharmas. Buddhas, at the sixth, they have to go through the first 5 paramitas to dhyana chanding. At that point, if they continue, they can see 我空法空, self is empty, dharmas are empty. If they're not there yet, don't pretend. Okay, what is the meaning of abiding in peace? I'm going to let you answer that. One easy way to explain anju would be not nagging your spouse. When you and your spouse, be it a wife or a husband, have a fight, do you give them that look? Do you give them the stink eye? If so, that is not anju. If you look at all of the children who don't listen to you, if you take every opportunity to go be with your kids and listen to them, let them talk to you and actually listen to them, you will anju. It's not hao gao wu yuan, right? It's much closer than you think. Anju. Okay, the relationship between the brow center, 想请教一下眉心与法身 and Dharma body. I don't have to go any further. I don't know. Not my state. People who talk about it probably don't know either. 知者无言，言者无知. Okay? All right. We have covered today's questions. Next week, I'll be happy to answer more questions. Please submit those questions if you'd like to discuss things about them. Here we go. Let's put our yaksha away. And who's next? Kinnaras and Gandharvas. These two groups of beings in the Dharma realm are very complicated, very complex, and very important to the workings of the Buddha's Dharma assemblies, as well as the Devas. So these are music spirits, and they are part of the Tianlong Babu, the gods, the dragons, eightfold pantheon. They speak Dharma. So next week, we're going to be talking about Kinnaras and Gandharvas, and we'll also talk about 转轮圣王, wheel-turning sage kings, Chakravartins, the 4 kings of heaven. There they are. Oh boy, look at a lot. Look at how busy those sage kings are. And the problems. The thing is, the sutras teach us about these beings, showing us their reality. I don't want to say their humanity because they're not humans, but it really talks about them as genuine beings who are going through genuine issues and the problems they have and how they overcome them, and the qualities, their strengths, and how they employ them. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me in another investigation into the Flower Garland Sutra. I'm so glad you're here helping me look at the sutra and make sense of it for our lives today. Can we dedicate merit with the mantra? Medicine Buddha's mantra. Maybe we can get the Yaksha generals to lend their strength to make this mantra go further. One more time. Before we're done, we will bow to Guanyin Pusa. Here we go. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. That's going to do it for us for today. We'll see you all next week. Amitofo, everybody. Bye now.